And the videographer here is Ruth Andrus, and we'll be interviewing Lois Wolf. Hello.
Hi, Nancy.
Well, you've led an exciting life, but let's start from the beginning here. Where were you born?
Dallas.
And
At St. Paul Hospital when it was on Live Oak, May 29th, 1924.
tell me a little bit about where you lived, how many brothers and sisters you had.
Okay, I have one sister, Marilyn Rolnick Tonkin, and there were just two of us. And we lived in South Dallas.
What street?
Well, we lived on Park Row a couple of times, and on Wendelken, and then moved to Highland Park in 39. And I went to John Henry Brown School in South Dallas, graduated from Forest Avenue High in 1941.
And you went there from Highland Park?
No.
Okay.
No. I was just giving you the places that we lived.
Oh, I see.
And I was going back.
Yeah, I see. Did you go to college here?
For one semester, I went to the University of Illinois. And I met Howard the summer right after I graduated from high school. We had a blind date, and we really fell in love.
That was it?
That was the defining moment in my life.
And was this in Dallas that
In
you met?
Dallas, yes. She became a cousin, but she wasn't a cousin at the time. Howard was from St. Louis. And Tony said to me, please come out with me. I got a date with a fella from St. Louis, and he's got a friend that's here on business from St. Louis. Please double date with me. And I said, Tony, I don't double date. I'm not going out. I'm going with somebody, and I really am not interested in going. She said, please do it.
You were 18.
I was just 17.
Okay.
17. And so with her persuasion, I went on the date. And that was it. Really, it was kind of interesting. We lived in Highland Park at that time, and I remember Howard coming to the door and ringing the bell, and my father answered the door. And I was upstairs getting dressed, and as I was walking down the stairs, Daddy had let Howard in the door, and I think both of us were totally shocked at each other. And I said to myself at the time, he is the most knocked out guy I have ever seen.
What did Daddy think?
Daddy thought he was pretty good, because he didn't really want me to be going with the guy I was going with.
Oh.
So that was the beginning of our life, really.
So did he stay
So
on here?
No. He was from St. Louis, and I went to school at Illinois because he was in St. Louis. And at that time, you didn't take entrance exams to get into college. You didn't do anything to get into school. It was right after the Depression. And so I decided I wanted to go to Illinois. And I remember Howard coming up to I pledged SDT. And I remember him coming up to my formal. And I remember the next day, we went to a movie with Dinah Shore, and we came back and sat in front of our sorority house, and we had the radio on, and the radio said, Pearl Harbor has been bombed. And we looked at each other and we said, where's Pearl Harbor? Nobody knew where Pearl Harbor was at that time.
42.
41? Yeah, 42.
42.
Yeah. No, it was 41.
It was 41?
41.
Wow. I'm just curious, on your blind date, where'd you go?
We went to a place called the Plantation. I don't know that you would remember it, but it was an open air dance place on Greenville Avenue. And Howard wasn't particularly a great dancer, but it was really fun.
What did your parents, were they born and raised here?
No.
What did they do for a living, your father?
My father came here from Chicago, and you know, I really don't know where he started. I don't know where he was born. Mother came to Dallas when she was 4 years old with my grandmother. And she was from Russia, from near Chernobyl.
Oh.
So, and the family history, I think you can find out from that family tree, all the particulars. But it really doesn't go, it starts with my grandmother. And I really have no information about my father's family, except his mother was named Doris Borkin. And she came to Dallas. She had a delicatessen on Commerce Street, right across from Neiman's. But that's, and my father had one sister. Her name was Phyllis. And really, that's all the history.
Did Phyllis move to Dallas when your father
She did. She was here, but then she got married and moved away, and I really lost track of her after that.
What got your father here to Dallas?
You know, I don't know. I really don't know at all.
His occupation?
Well, he was actually, I know it's now NCH, but he did work for Milton Levy. And you got to realize that those were such different times. They were such totally different times at that time.
Yeah. Do you still, are you still in touch with some people that you grew up with? And give me some names.
You know, I really got married so young. And the ones that graduated from high school, the only contact that I really remember and still see on occasion are Francis Coleman and Julius Coleman. But so many of the people that I grew up with are gone.
Yeah, I'm not here anymore. Yeah.
I've gone to a younger group.
What was your neighborhood like?
Where, in South Dallas? It was, everybody knew everybody. I mean, on Park Row, I remember the Aronoffs lived there, the Levys lived there, the Stones lived there, the Davids. I had an aunt and uncle, Frida and Jake Green, that lived there. The Steinbergs, so many.
Well,
Edwin Ornish. But all these people are gone.
yeah. I know the names because of their children.
Right.
You know.
Right. Dean and my son Robert grew up together. And I saw Dean when he came back here when his father died. And he's certainly
He's
been a
remarkable.
huge, enormous success.
Yeah, remarkable. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have any Jewish connections or organizations?
At that time?
Or temple? What
Oh,
temple
yeah.
did you
Well, I was confirmed from Sheriff Israel,
Uh-huh.
which is, and I really lost all connection after that because I was involved in school, and then actually when Hara and I got married, we affiliated ourselves with Temple Emmanuel. So, I did go to Hebrew school, I think, when I was a kid, very young. Then there was a Hebrew school on, let me see, it was Park Row.
Was it attached to a
No, it was
synagogue?
it's just in a house. And I'm trying to think of the cross street, but I can't remember.
What got you? Well, so I'm going to backtrack.
Okay.
So you got married. Howard, your husband, moved here because
Yes,
of you.
he moved, he loved Dallas. He came to Dallas and after we decided to be married, and he said, it was so clean, it was so open, it had such a feel about it, that it was just a phenomenal place to be. Because coming from St. Louis at that time, it was coal heated and dark and sooty and dirty.
Yeah.
And he came to Dallas, it
And it was
was
bright and shiny.
bright and shiny, and loved being here.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, those were exciting things.
Oh,
when
yeah.
things started
Oh,
happening,
absolutely.
particularly in the fashion industry.
Well, not at that
No?
time. No. This was really before, because this was during the war.
When did
See, we were
when did
married.
Venus-
We were married May 31st. Oh, wait a minute. 19. Isn't that awful? It was 72 years ago.
So 72 years ago. So that
Isn't that terrible? I can't remember.
10, 1940.
No, we were married 1942. Of course we were married.
1942.
Of course
yeah,
we were married
1942.
May 31st, 1942.
Because now it's 2013.
Right. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning of the war. And Howard had pneumonia when he was 16 and had some lymph nodes on his lungs. And before we were married, for our wedding, he tried to enlist into the Naval Air Corps, and they declined. Then the Army Air Corps, and declined. He tried to be part of the force, the armed forces, because there weren't any men at home. And if you went out in civilian clothes, he felt very
Self-conscious.
self-conscious. He was very uncomfortable.
So that's what it was like. Huh?
It was terrible. It really was terrible. I was happy that he didn't go, but I understood how he felt. Because there was, if you would go to any restaurant, if you would go out anywhere, all you would see are soldiers dressed in armed gear. Because that was it.
But I never realized that. Of course he would stick out.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was a stigma. But then, fortunately, and thank God, the war ended. We lost a lot of people, and it was a horrendous period to live through. But then the United States started coming back.
In the 50s.
Well, actually, late 40s.
Late 40s.
Late 40s.
What got your Howard into a transition?
Oh,
To
he
go
was
into
working in St. Louis
Mhm.
for his uncle, who was in the, and at that time St. Louis was a manufacturing hub, and he was working for him, and he was traveling for him. That's how we really met, because he was here on business went to sell clothes, and he thought that he was going to be part of his uncle's firm and be an executive there and what have you, and it didn't work out that way. So there was another firm in St. Louis called Mary Muffet, and he went to them, and they employed him, and they gave him the whole southern part of the United States. And it's very interesting in that at that time and during the war, because he did travel, and I think this is interesting. It was a Chevrolet, and it was a two-door, but there was a back seat. And you know that you couldn't get gasoline, you couldn't get tires, you couldn't get anything during the war because it was all allotted. You had to have books, stamp books, to get shoes, sugar, tires, gasoline. So with that, Howard converted, and actually didn't convert it, but put signs on the back windows of his firm, and it was a truck. So he could get gasoline to travel.
That little stinker.
How about that? It's one of the little tidbits that happened during the war. And also, people were so hungry for goods, for merchandise, that whatever was made was bought. And the clothes that the clothes were adorable, and he sold to these different cities all over the South, and they were allotted their quota because they wanted to buy much more, but the manufacturers couldn't get the fabric, they couldn't get all the things that went into manufacturing the garment. They couldn't get it because it was all allotted because of the war.
Yeah. And of course, in those days, there was no importing, you know.
Oh my God, we were at war with them.
Mm-hmm.
We were at war with everybody. And the countries we weren't at war with were our allies, and they were fighting.
When did you start having children, and how many children, and where are they?
Well, we had a son that was born in 1943. His name was Michael, and when he was 6 years old, he drowned. It was in University Park by the fire station over there, and I was with my daughter Andrea, and he got away from me, and I wasn't aware of it, and we lost him. But then we had our daughter Andrea, and then we had two more sons, Howard Jr. and Robert, and that's the crew.
Are they around?
Oh yes, they are. Well, I just had lunch with Robert, and two granddaughters. Yes, and Robert lives north of Denton. He's a rural guy, and my son Howard lives in Tulsa, and Andrea lives about a mile away from me. So they're pretty close. And I have 5 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren and 1 on the way.
Lucky you. Are any of the ones that live here in Dallas?
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, 2 of one is Stacy Blank, and that I had lunch with today, and the other one is Lauren Trahan, and Robert is Lauren's father. And Gabriella lives between Denton and McKinney. And my 2 other grandchildren live in Tulsa. And his name is Trey and Rachel Wolf.
Do you get to Tulsa much? Because that's another beautiful
Oh,
city.
it is a beautiful city. No, I don't. I get there. I go there. My grandson became an Eagle Scout, so I went up for that. And then my granddaughter was bat mitzvah, and of course Trey was bar mitzvah before that. So get up there on occasion.
So you had your children, and it sounds like you were a devoted mother. When did you go connect and for the camera? Tell us about your husband and when you became a business.
Well, a force, I suppose it was in the, I was with Howard Wolf, the company. I believe I started at about 40, we were in business for about 50 years, and I was there for about 40 years.
So
And I really learned from the ground up because I had no formal training. But I did learn how to sketch. And I guess it was just an innate thing that I could relate to color, that I could relate to fabrics, and I could relate to style.
So you were the designer.
No, I wasn't the designer.
Yeah.
I could put things together, but we had a design force. And I really was part of it because in order to design, you got to have fabrics. In order to design, you got to have the color and put it together and put the collection together. And that was really my job.
So I'm just trying to piece this. So they did the designing. They came up and then
I worked with
yeah.
design. No, I was in the design department, and part of while they were designing, my input would go into design.
I see. Well, Howard Wolf is such a beloved and famous name, but I always hear Howard and Lois Wolf.
Well,
So you must have been almost...
Well, it really was. I think that our relationship was a unique one in many ways because it was like a 24/7 situation. Howard wouldn't try. Well, of course, and we went on business, but he really didn't like to be away from me, and I really didn't like for him to be away either. But I mean, I could have handled it. He just didn't want to be away, and I don't know if that's why I became so involved, but I was drawn to it anyway because I love it. It's challenging, very challenging to put things together and make it come out right.
Is there, with this experience, is there anything that you touch on now that has a background in your fashion, any kind of volunteer work? Or,
Whatever I think that it has to do with whenever you're looking at anything that has design, whether it's clothes, whether it's furniture, whether it's automobiles, that it has there's a relationship because the design part is so important to whatever we do. How about the architecture? How about the
art,
everything?
yeah, it's the creative.
And I still love going and looking and doing.
I can tell. Where did you travel? I mean, where were your biggest influences? In the fabric or the
My
travel?
biggest influences?
Yeah.
For me personally,
Yeah,
you mean?
yeah, and Howard's.
Well, actually, New York
Mm-hmm.
and Europe
Mm-hmm.
and the Far East.
The Far East.
That Far East,
yeah.
fabrics, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But design and styling was Europe. Primarily Europe, because at that time, it really started in Europe. And we first started going to Europe in 1968. No, we were in Europe. 1960 was the first time we went to Europe. And then gradually, we didn't go, we went once a year. And at first, we went to the couture showings to see what was happening at the very beginning of design.
Was it Paris or was
Paris.
it Italy?
It was Paris.
Mm-hmm.
But we went to Italy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a few years, the influence from the couture wasn't as great as seeing the styling that was around, because we went to Paris, we went London, Munich, Milan, south of France. South of France had wonderful clothes. And
Really?
Yes. They had
By designers
by-
I would have heard of?
not that you'd have heard of,
Mm-hmm.
but the clothes were terrific.
What do you think of the fashions these days?
They're getting better.
Yeah. People are getting exhausted.
Well, they're
with those
getting
silly
better because it
things.
was so bad in my eyes, it was so bad for a while. And I don't know if, I feel that there should be a dress code. And I'm not talking about laying down the law. I'm not really saying that.
I know.
I'm saying that I think it would be better for our society, frankly. Because I think it gives you something to strive for.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dressed, you feel better, and you think better of yourself.
And you're a pleasure to look at, you know?
Well, yeah. So I think it's a good thing to have a style about yourself and know that you're presentable and look well when you go out.
And it has such an influence. You know, when I walk into a bank, I think, gosh, I wish she wasn't wearing those ill-fitting pants. And
Exactly. That, and I think that the businesses, and I have a feeling, it may not be tomorrow, but in the future, they're going to get back to a dress code.
Why do you think that?
Because it's very interesting. I had lunch yesterday, and I had lunch with Sandy Donsky, and I'm bringing her into it because of her firm, and they were talking about possibly forming a committee to determine what the dress should be in the office. So that's why I feel if they're thinking it, there are other people that are thinking it as well.
Good.
Because I think it's important. I think it's important to our society. I think it tells you where you are.
That's an interesting take. What would your husband, would he agree?
Oh, definitely. Howard was beautifully dressed, always. He didn't always wear a tie in his later years, but he always wore a jacket with a handkerchief in his pocket. So he was beautifully dressed.
What connections did you have with Neiman Marcus?
Oh, we were asked by Neiman's to go to, when we were on our, because we were going to Europe anyway, and we were going to Italy, because that's what we did when we went on our trips, and we go to different fabric houses, and they specifically wanted more upscale clothes. Neiman's did. So we went to fabric houses that were very special, and we bought fabrics, imported them, and made our designs into these fabrics from Italy. And that's how we were part of the fortnight, the Italian fortnight.
There was another fortnight you were involved in.
No, just the Italian fortnight. It really came to a close. I think the two prime events were the French fortnight and the Italian fortnight. And after that, it was there, but it didn't have the impact.
Well, didn't Stanley Marcus sell the business?
Oh yeah, but that was sometime after that. It was sometime after that.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
He was the
mover and shaker.
Yeah, he was the mover and shaker.
He was an incredible man. Oh, I think he was. I think he was one of the forces that made Dallas.
That's what they say.
Oh, there's no question about it. I want to tell you, when we went to the Far East for the first time, Stanley Marcus wrote ahead for us and introduced us to people that were just phenomenal, and made our trip phenomenal because of his introducing us. And it was just a fabulous time. We met the Princess of Thailand, and this is a curious thing. She takes a picture of everybody that comes to her house, so that she has a record, whoever comes to visit her. And it was just a phenomenal trip because of the doors that were opened. By Stanley Marcus.
Were you able to, have you kept in touch with those that are alive?
Oh, well, no, because it's been a long, you've got to realize this was in the 70s, and we're in 2013.
40 years ago. Was there much manufacturing taking place in Dallas?
Yes, at that time. At that time, Dallas did have a good manufacturing base. And one of the outstanding firms here, it was right when we were getting started, it was Nordis. With Ben Gold. And there were other, there were many. There was a lot of manufacturing, but not all of it. There were small manufacturers.
Right.
And I think that we truly were the manufacturer in Dallas.
Well, what do you think of Dallas now?
Now?
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal.
Me too.
I think it is absolutely spectacular.
It's a big city.
But I've loved it. I've seen. I kind of felt this all along, and I felt like we were all right in the middle, and our airport was our ocean, and there was no question that this was a major place to be. And it had a good beginning. It had the good base.
Well, I think this has been fascinating talking to you. And you have these huge portfolios, which we're not going to rest until we've taken photos and copies and added, because you really added to the history of this. I mean, it's people like you that's made this city what it is.
Fascinating, exciting, stupendous city. It's awesome. And it's just going to keep going.
What are your favorite things to do now? We have an art scene, you know.
Oh, gosh, I don't know what now, I love being in business. I really did. I love the challenge of it. Mm-hmm. And when we sold and we got out, really I was with Howard, and he wasn't the best the last few years of his life. So I really didn't do much. And today, I'm just playing. I'm playing bridge, and I'm playing mahjong, and I'm going to theater, and I'm going to lectures, and I'm doing things that I didn't do because I really didn't have the time.
So you're catching up.
I'm catching up.
Yeah. Are there any role models that, I'm wrapping it up.
Yes.
Were there any role models that inspired you, that had you going? I mean, there weren't that many women working at that time.
No, there weren't that many. There were. I was the rare one, actually. Mm-hmm. I just loved design. I loved some of the role models were the designers of the time, really. I'm trying to think of some of their names and they escape me. Mm-hmm. But yes, they were there. Because I could see what they would do with color. I could see what they would do with fabric. I could see all the different things that went into making that finished garment.
Oh, I forgot to ask you something. I saw some great advertising in there. Mm-hmm. Was your influence on that too?
Those were our ads.
Yeah. Oh, those were.
They're all our ads.
Okay.
They were all over the country.
Okay. So you had a department.
Oh yeah.
Advertising. How many employees did you have?
Oh golly, I don't remember. At one time, I'm sure there were a couple of hundred, 250, 300 at one time. But as it got more difficult to manufacture here, we just got rid of our manufacturing spaces and then went down to business offices and design.
But did you have any influence on? I love advertising. Did you have any
on the ads? Did I have? Yes, because my input. That was part of what I did.
Oh,
my input was there.
I see. Yeah. Was Howard very involved?
Oh my God, yes.
He micromanaged.
Oh yes. Oh yes. He was quite a guy. He was. He really had. He really knew what to do, when to do it, and where to do it.
He had the touch.
Yeah. He had the touch.
Is there anything that I might have left out that you'd like to touch it on for our?
I don't know. We covered a lot, didn't we?
We covered a lot. But is there any particular
story or person?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Let me think. And there were so many, and there was so much over those years. Probably tonight when I'm in bed, I'll think of it.
Call us.
Okay.
We'll come back.
We'll be wired in.
Well, you've given us enough fascinating information.
I hope so.
For us. Yeah, that's to want to watch.
It was kind of interesting going back over the things that I did. And I hope it's what you want.
Oh, it is, and thank you very, very much.
It was my pleasure.